Good morning. I want to give you a short thought this morning, but from a very perplexing text. And I don't claim to know exactly how all of this works. But listen to Hebrews 5, 7, and 8. And in the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverence. That's verse 7. Now just think about that for a minute. That in your minds, that ought to lay on to his prayers in Gethsemane. It may lay on to other times he got away from the crowds and prayed, but certainly Gethsemane comes to mind, where he prays to this one who, his Father, for deliverance. Although he was a son, verse 8 says, he learned obedience through what he suffered. He learned obedience through what he suffered. The beginning of verse 9 says, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to all who obey him. Being made perfect, being made complete or mature in this sense, right? So here's the idea. When Jesus was born and Jesus developed and went through the developmental stages of his humanity, it's not as though he looked and at the age of 7 thought, well, you suckers don't even realize I'm God. He came into some kind of awareness as his humanity grew and his capacity grew, and he became aware of and self-conscious of his own deity. As his humanity came to full apprehension of it in that way. Now, he's fully God, and that's part of the amazing nature of how Philippians 2:8 talks about him condescending to become a human person. He takes on this, and willfully takes on this kind of constraint and takes that on. And here the text says he learns. He learned obedience through what he suffered. He learned. It's not that he disobeyed. It's that in not sinning, right, he constrains and he acts in a way that always obeys. And his character is perpetually formed in those repeated acts of obedience. What this speaks of, by the way, is not that Jesus was a sinner, because he wasn't and he never sinned. He always chose righteously. But in always choosing righteously, he progressively formed his character in the midst of suffering, in the midst of difficulty, depending upon his Father. He was fully human. This is what it means to be fully human. So in this way, this aspect of a finite human nature, which of course wasn't all he possessed, because he possessed an infinite divine nature. But in a finite human nature, he teaches us what it means to fully rely upon God and always turn the right way, always lean in to the Father. And he learned obedience through his suffering, and he models for us how we can learn obedience through our own suffering. What condescension and what amazing Christological example of leaning into the Father to learn in the midst of suffering. May the Lord bless you and encourage you, and may you follow his example as you endure your own challenges. Take care.